Welcome to the deep dive. You're here because you want the real story, the velocity check on how fast AI is actually hitting the economy. And, well, this new Anthropic Economic Index report, it suggests we might need a whole new definition for speed.
That's really the headline finding, isn't it? The pace just blows everything else out of the water. I mean, look at the numbers. 40% of U.S. employees say they're using AI at work now.
40%. And that number doubled in just 2 years. Well, the comparisons are pretty stark.
Right. Think about the internet.
Yeah, the internet took maybe 5 years to get where AI got to.
And PCs, personal computers, took something like 20 years to get into most American homes. What we're seeing now is just different, a real acceleration.
It says a lot about how easy these tools are to pick up, I guess. No new hardware needed, no complex installs.
Exactly. It runs on what we already have, so the barrier to entry is incredibly low. And that ease is fueling this huge historic shift.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. Because even with that incredible speed, the report is very clear. Adoption is, well, it's not happening evenly everywhere.
Not at all.
So our mission today is to really dig into this index, figure out where the action is concentrated, across different tasks, different countries, and especially how businesses are using it in their more sophisticated systems.
Yeah, we need to look at who's using it, how they're using it, and crucially, why some places or industries are just pulling ahead so much faster than others.
Because that early specialization could really reshape the whole economic playing field.
Definitely. It's already happening.
All right, let's start with the consumer side then. Looking specifically at Claude.ai, Anthropic's web interface. The report tracks how people used it over 8 months, through versions V1 to V3. What's changing in how individuals are using it?
Well, the mix of tasks is shifting, and it's quite revealing. Coding is still the biggest chunk, no surprise there. It holds steady around 36% of all use. That's huge.
Okay, 36% for coding. But what's the big shift?
The real story is the rise of, let's call them knowledge-intensive fields. Tasks related to education, things like summarizing really complex papers or explaining tricky concepts, they jumped from about 9.3% up to 12.4%.
Wow, quite a jump.
And scientific tasks saw a similar rise from 6.3% to 7.2%. But here's the interesting part. While those complex reasoning tasks are going up,
the simpler stuff is going down. Like writing basic emails.
Kind of, yeah. The relative share for more routine business tasks, like business and financial operations, that dropped from 6% down to around 3%. Management tasks also dipped relatively.
So it suggests people are moving past just using it for, quick assistance.
Exactly. It seems AI is getting pushed into workflows that need deeper reasoning, more complex thinking, not just basic augmentation.
It brings us to this idea of delegation, right? For AI to really stick, people have to go beyond seeing it as just a helper, a collaborator.
And start actually trusting it to do things, to delegate tasks.
Does the data show that happening, that increase in trust?
Oh, absolutely. It's crystal clear. We're seeing a huge behavioral shift towards automation, even on the consumer side. Conversations the report classifies as directive, where someone basically gives Claude a whole task to do without much back and forth.
Like, write me a report on X.
Pretty much. That type of interaction jumped from 27% to 39% in just 8 months.
39%. So automation or delegation is now more common than just using it for augmentation or collaboration.
On Claude.ai, yes, it's crossed that threshold. That's a big psychological step for users.
And you see proof of this confidence in the coding data too, right?
You do. It's really telling. The share of coding tasks focused on creating new code, that more than doubled. It jumped by 4.5 percentage points.
While fixing code went down.
Exactly. Debugging and error correction tasks fell by almost 3 percentage points. So people aren't just asking it to fix mistakes anymore. They're confidently telling it to build complex new things, often in just one go.
Okay, that feels like a really crucial turning point. AI isn't just the smart assistant anymore. It's becoming the system you hand off significant work to.
That's the trend.
All right, let's talk geography now. Because this fast adoption, this move towards delegation, it's not happening everywhere equally. The report uses this thing called the Anthropic AI Usage Index, the AUI.
Right, the AUI. It's basically a per capita measure. It compares a country's share of Claude usage to its share of the world's working-age population.
So if your AUI is over 1, you're punching above your weight in AI use.
Exactly. You're using it more than your population size would suggest. And the global patterns this reveals are, well, they're quite stark.
How so?
There's a really strong positive link between a country's AUI and its GDP per working age person. Basically, richer countries are adopting AI much, much faster.
Which immediately makes you worry about, the global divide widening even further.
That's the concern. The productivity boosts seem to be concentrating where capital is already concentrated.
So who are the leaders then? The global superstars in per capita use? Is it the U.S., China?
Actually, no, it's smaller, really tech-focused, agile economies that are leading the pack. Israel is number one with an AUI of 7.
7. So they're using it 7 times more than you'd expect based on their population?
7 times, yes. And Singapore is next at 4.57 times. It suggests being nimble and integrating it deeply across the economy is key right now.
And the contrast.
Yeah.
Lagging countries.
You see emerging economies like India way down at 0.27x and Nigeria at 0.2x, a massive gap.
A 7 times multiplier versus zero point 0.2. That's
Sounds
huge.
right.
It implies Israel and Singapore are just leveraging AI expertise way more efficiently across their workforces. That's a serious competitive edge.
It really is, and how they use it differs, too.
How so? Do low AUI countries use it for different things?
Very much so. In lower AUI countries, usage is heavily skewed towards coding. India, for example, more than half of all its Claude usage is coding.
Okay. And the high UI countries?
They show a much broader mix of tasks. Places like Israel and Singapore have high usage in education, science, complex business analysis. It's more diversified.
Right, but here's where it gets kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? We just said the overall trend over time is towards more automation, more delegation.
Correct.
But geographically, that pattern flips.
It does, and this is fascinating. Even when you control for the type of task being done, the high adoption, high AUI countries actually tend to favor augmentation, that more collaborative back-and-forth style.
While the low adoption countries are more likely to use it for straight-up automation, delegating the whole task.
Exactly. It's the opposite of the general trend we saw over time.
So richer countries, using it more overall, are still using it more collaboratively for now, while poorer countries, using it less overall, jump straight to trying to automate tasks with it.
That's what the data suggests. It really complicates the simple narrative. Maybe it's about the stage of economic development, or maybe access to the right kind of data, or even cultural factors influencing how you first try to deploy AI. Quick wins versus deep integration.
That's a really important nuance. Okay, let's bring it home to the U.S. Total usage, no surprise, California leads, right? About a quarter of all U.S. usage.
25.3%, yeah. But the per capita leaders, the AUI leaders within the U.S., maybe not who you'd guess.
Go on.
Washington, D.C. leads the nation, an AUI of 3.82, followed very closely by Utah at 3.78.
D.C. and Utah, both way ahead of California's 2.13 on a per capita basis.
Yeah.
Why them? They seem quite different.
It comes down to local specialization. The type of work done in that local economy shapes how AI is used there.
Okay, makes sense.
So D.C., with its heavy focus on white-collar jobs, government, consulting, they use Claude way more for things like job applications and polishing resumes, almost twice the national average for those tasks.
Right, and Utah.
Utah has strong tech and finance sectors, so you see more use in computational tasks there. And you see other patterns, too, like Florida over-indexing on business advice and even fitness queries.
So the takeaway for you, the listener, is that high adoption isn't just about having money. It's about whether AI's current strengths match up well with the jobs people actually do in your area.
Precisely. If AI is good at the high-value stuff your state specializes in, your AUI shoots up.
Okay, let's switch gears completely to the business side. Enterprise use through the API. This isn't someone typing into a website. This is businesses integrating Claude programmatically, paying per token, building it right into their systems.
Yeah, this is a fundamentally different way of using AI. It's about systems integration.
And what does adoption look like there? Is it still focused on collaboration or?
Oh, it's overwhelmingly about automation. The delegation is systematic here. API usage is still heavy on coding, 44%, and also office and admin tasks, about 10%.
But the headline is the automation level.
Absolutely. A massive 77% of the API interactions show clear automation patterns. Compare that to the roughly 50% on the consumer side we just talked about.
77%. Businesses are building this in specifically to delegate entire workflows on a large scale.
That's the clear picture.
Okay, so if they're paying per token, per unit of usage,
Right.
does cost dictate what they automate? You'd think they'd go for the cheapest tasks first, the low-hanging fruit.
Logically, yes. But the data actually shows the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, we found a positive correlation between the cost of a task in tokens and how much it's used via the API.
Give me an example.
Okay, so tasks typical in computer and mathematical jobs. They tend to be about 50% more expensive, token-wise, than sales-related tasks. Yet those expensive computational tasks dominate API usage.
So businesses are deliberately choosing the more expensive tasks to automate.
It seems so, which runs completely counter to typical early tech adoption, right?
It does. It means the value they expect to get from automating those high-skill, expensive tasks must be enormous. They're prioritizing the potential economic impact way over the immediate cost per token.
Exactly. They're optimizing for the big win, the value generated, not just minimizing the cost. Capability trumps price sensitivity here.
Okay, but if they're automating these complex tasks systematically, they must run into barriers.
Yet,
What's the bottleneck?
the big one is context. For AI to do really complex, sophisticated work, you need to feed it a lot of information, the specific organizational knowledge, the background data, the context it needs to perform accurately.
Right. You can't just ask it a generic question. You need to give it your company's specific situation. And I bet feeding it tons and tons of context gets tricky.
It gets tricky, and you hit diminishing returns fast. The report actually quantified this, and it's pretty striking.
What did they find?
They found that a 1% increase in the length of the input, the context you provide to Claude, only leads to about a 0.38% increase in the length of the useful output you get back.
0.38%. Wow, that's highly nonlinear, as they say. Steep drop-off.
Extremely nonlinear.
So what does that 0.38 number really mean for a company trying to deploy AI across its really complex knowledge work?
It implies the biggest hurdle right now isn't necessarily the AI model's raw intelligence. The models can do complex tasks. The real bottleneck is the company's own ability to digitize, organize, and structure all the relevant knowledge, often stuff that's just in people's heads, tacit knowledge so the AI can actually use it effectively.
Without that well-structured knowledge base to feed in.
You hit those diminishing returns on context, and the AI gets stuck doing simpler, more generic tasks, even if it's capable of more. The system can't leverage the context efficiently.
So the main barrier isn't the AI's cost or smarts, it's the hard work of getting your own organizational knowledge in order.
That seems to be a major limiting factor for deep, sophisticated enterprise adoption right now.
Okay, let's try and pull this all together. We've seen this lightning speed, this intense geographic concentration, and this clear drive towards systematic automation in businesses. What's the synthesis? What does it all signal for the labor market, going forward?
Well, we have those three key threads, right? One, AI adoption is faster than anything we've seen before. Two, it's geographically concentrated, tied closely to income, which carries a real risk of widening global inequality.
Right.
And three, businesses, when they integrate AI systematically via APIs, are overwhelmingly using it for automation. That 77% figure is key.
So the patterns we're seeing suggest pretty big and pretty fast. Changes are already hitting the labor market. You've got clear automation happening in businesses, and that overall trend towards more directive, delegated tasks.
Exactly. And given that bottleneck we just discussed, that complex tasks depend so much on feeding the AI extensive, often tacit organizational knowledge.
The big question becomes,
The biggest question left hanging is this. Does AI primarily end up substituting for more routine, maybe entry-level work? Because that's easier to automate without needing deep context. Or does it become this incredibly powerful complement for experienced workers?
the ones who hold that complex, tacit knowledge needed for the context.
Precisely. Does it make those experienced people dramatically more productive and therefore even more valuable? Because they're the ones who can effectively guide the AI on complex tasks.
So displacement at the bottom or amplification at the top.
How companies manage to solve that context problem, how they digitize and structure their internal knowledge, that's likely going to determine which path we go down.
And that's definitely something for you to think about. Watch how companies tackle that challenge in the coming months and years, because that decision could really define the next chapter of work.